Awesome. Awesome. All right. It looks like it worked. We are live here for another episode of Mornings with Manny. Good morning, everybody. How are you? Let me uh, let me just record here. This is so cool. All right, the future, everybody. It's here. We did it. Let's see if I can turn on this camera. Prezi. Yes. All right. Awesome. Hey, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to another episode of Mornings with Manny. As you can clearly see, I'm getting more and more technical with the virtual event stuff. I've got the studio going on. I've got this cool little background that makes me look very angelic and heavenly because I want to be an angel to start off your week on the bright side. So in case you guys aren't familiar with this show, Mornings with Manny is a show that I put together, I believe, in 2017, where I would go live to talk to people about the things I've learned and kind of show you a little bit of my personal side and the things that interest me. And yeah, it's been going on for a while. I took off a year to kind of like jumpstart a business, and it worked out. And then now that we're in quarantine, I'm like, let me reboot this show. And what perfect timing now that we're all stuck inside and everything is going virtual. And I can even go live on Instagram here. So I've got the main camera. I've got the Zoom. I'm using multi-stream. I've got this cool little graphics thing, which, by the way, Meet the Makers of Miami is coming up this Sunday. I'll tell you more about that in a minute. Let me go live on Instagram here. I never thought that I'd be the kind of guy that would be this technical. I mean, I build websites, right? I do social media, but I never saw myself as being the multi-streamer going live and talking to people. But I guess, you know, if I've been doing comedy for so long, this should be something that I should get used to. Pretty easy to do. And what's awesome is that everything is streamlined. Check this out. Okay, maybe not. There we go. Yeah. All right. This is awesome. Okay, cool. All right, guys. So today I wanted to share with you about this virtual networking event that I'm doing through MiamiNetworking.com called Meet the Makers of Miami. And the reason why I started this virtual networking platform is because I kind of want to bring people together to have discussions that are way overdue. And some of the discussions include how we can see Miami differently or how we can come together to do cool things together. So me as a creative, I love starting online businesses. I've gone into many endeavors. I print T-shirts. I just enjoy going out, doing awesome things, and then doing more awesome things online. And one of the things that I've been experimenting with in 2018 is meeting other people that are like-minded. And you know, some of the people that I've met through MiamiNetworking.com have been incredible personalities that has allowed me to figure out more about the nuances in life, like law and accounting and bookkeeping, real estate. So for me to contribute to the networking groups here in Miami, I've decided to start this virtual event where the creatives and entrepreneurs can come together and actually have a discussion about being locals here. Okay, so we're all pursuing our own endeavors. We all have different lifestyles and different values, and you know, how we pursue them varies, right? And sometimes when you meet somebody at a networking event, if you guys aren't on the same page, it's kind of like you move on. However, if we come together and actually have a proactive discussion and everyone's, you know, on the same page on that discussion, we can make awesome things happen because we're all in a group think rather than a scattered networking event that I used to do when it was live. So I've done the Meet the Makers of Miami event. I believe the recent one was in May 28th. And it was an experiment. I didn't know what to expect. It could probably go really bad or really good. Thankfully, it's past my expectations. The feedback was amazing. And I thought I was onto something here. So the main reason, okay, is to bring in entrepreneurs and creatives, as I mentioned before, and have discussions to see how we can find out how we see the world. How we, so the first time we did Meet the Makers, what we did was we talked about our strengths. And it turns out that we all have our individual strengths. Sometimes we're not even aware of it, or we're not even good at seeing it on others. So sometimes you just need someone to facilitate a discussion in order to figure out what these strengths are. However, in this particular event, I want to do it a little bit different. We've already documented and recorded videos from our previous workshop. And in this one, what we're going to practice is how to raise the status quo by finding opportunities. Now, to find opportunities in the status quo, I mean, that just goes into your definition of what that is. But the in the most abstract yet essential way of describing it is, if something is one way, together we can speed it up to make it another way, with everybody included, of course. So whatever you think Miami is and whatever you think Miami can be, that's what we're going to have discussions on. And to go even more specifically, we're going to talk about this skill that I've been really looking into called perspectiving. So I'm in this coaching group. I've been doing it since the beginning of the year, and this is one of the main topics that we talk about. And it's so fascinating for me. It kind of blows my mind almost to think that we are in a world right now, or in a social media landscape right now, where everybody has an opinion about something. And sometimes these opinions can get really volatile, and it becomes a clash rather than a conversation. And the internet is so fast at connecting us to one another that these opinions kind of just spearhead their way into our perception. And then people react, and then they get into their feelings and emotions, and they spear their way back in. And it's this back and forth that's going on right now in the society that we live in. And the reason why is because the status quo needs to be raised. And some people want to keep it traditional, and some people want to make it different, and some people are radical, whatever the case may be. So in the future, I believe one of the most important skills that we can develop is perspectiving, where you consider other people's ideas and beliefs and the way they view things, and not just throw it off to the side and make it seem like it's wrong. And what is included in perspectiving is you need to understand the other person. And to understand the other person, you've got to be a better listener rather than reacting to what other people are saying. And no one's immune to this. Everybody does it one way or another. I mean, whenever I go out driving in Miami, the road rage kicks in every once in a while. I feel it coming. But the more aware of it that we are, the better we are at kind of like polishing that gem that is perspectiving, and seeing all the angles, and kind of living a better life, because you're not so caught up in the opinions of others, because it's already considered. You've already considered your own, and there's many more to consider. So it kind of like opens up this whole new landscape to perceive things differently. And to do that, I mean, as out there as it sounds, we need to develop how to be more compassionate. We need to develop how to become better people in terms of listening to others and considering where they're coming from. And that can be sometimes really hard to do, especially when there's opposing views. So perspectiving is kind of like the meta version of listening, understanding, and compassion. It's kind of a more logical way of doing it instead of an emotional way of doing it, but still has emotion within it. And there's a quote by the book. I don't want to skip that quote right there. So in the book, Just Listen by Mark Goulston has a quote that says, be more interested than interesting. And ever since I read that quote, it kind of changed the way I perceive things, where I'm no longer trying to just be an interesting person as a comedian. I try to understand other people. And one of the reasons why I go live and get feedback from people on the live chats, for example, like on Instagram or here on Facebook, is to see, what's your feedback on everything that I'm doing here, and how I can cater it to how you want it. And then with everybody considered, I can make the show a lot more better. Hang on, this thing keeps deselecting my presenter here. Here we go. Okay. Also, another thing to consider, we all have cognitive biases. One that's common that I believe that we're all falling into right now, especially with the media kind of like bombarding us with information, is that it's called confirmation bias. So for example, if you have a very strong opinion and you think you're right, you'll go on the internet and you'll search other people that have the same opinion. And that'll form like an echo chamber of people just reinforcing your belief. Instead, the most counterintuitive thing you can do to refine what you believe in, or to make sure that your points are valid, is to see the counterpoint instead, and actually like tune into that and really go in depth to what the counterpoint is, and see the logic within it, see the emotion within it, see the background, where it's going, the possibilities. And then that way, our beliefs can be more strengthened by the perception of another person, rather than those that believe or agree. Do you know what I mean? So it'll make you a better debater. It'll make you a better person in your beliefs. It may even show you something different. this is something that a lot of people need to practice in doing. I as well. Sometimes I'm not into some of the music that some of the popular kids are in, but every once in a while I just play it and I try to understand it, and then I was like, okay, yeah, I get this lifestyle. And then sometimes I play it, for fun on my car whenever I have company or like a passenger or something. I play the music to kind of like set the mood, even though it's not something I listen to in private. This I learned through understanding my cognitive bias of not always listening to the same music over and over, and actually venture off and try to do something a little bit different. And in Meet the Makers of Miami, we're going to experiment. I know this isn't a really good art piece, but and for those watching on Instagram, you can tune into any of our Facebook channels to see the presentation. Instagram doesn't connect to the presentation yet, but hopefully you'll understand what I'm talking about through my voice. So I know this isn't a good abstract piece, but it was free to use, so I just used it. So what we're going to do in Meet the Makers of Miami is we're going to look at symbols. We're going to look at art. We're going to look at quotes, things that represent many things to many people, and we're going to look at it together, and we're going to have a discussion on what it represents to you. Okay, so as a group here locally in Miami, I think this is a really cool exercise to practice our perspectiving skills, and you actually get to listen to different people saying what they see. So it's kind of like a Rorschach test, but in a social setting, right? And not so expensive when you do it through a psychologist. And we're really going to dive deep and look into your filters. So every mind, based on their experiences, based on their past, based on their values, based on their attitudes, we all have filters, right? We're human beings. We're flawed, and that's normal, and that's okay. And if we're able to actually see our filters, the way our minds filters information, and like look at it in a tangible way, we can get a better understanding not only of others but of ourselves. So in Meet the Makers of Miami this Sunday, this is going to be one of the things we're also going to be looking at, all the mental filters that we've developed in our minds. And perceiving is believing, okay? And if we all come together and actually become better perceivers of what's happening around us, with all things considered, all perspectives, all opinions, whatever the case may be, you'll be taking in information, and I believe you'll be living a way better life because you won't be so stressed out on things you don't have control in, okay? So this skill we're going to be developing together and Meet the Makers of Miami. And I'm excited. I've been developing the curriculum for a while, and I think that this is a really cool workshop to partake in, especially here locally in Miami. Okay, so together we can see the bigger picture. This is a really cool art piece where everyone is in their own cubes looking at a certain part of the elephant. Some people see the feet, some people see the trunk, the face, the tusk, but together we can see the whole thing and get a better understanding of what's happening in a more bird's eye view. Okay, and speaking of perspectiving, what does this symbol mean to you? I know it's a controversial symbol and I use it loosely, okay, like kind of like satirically, but this is one of the most common and mysterious symbols that is used in humanity. So perspectiving is a skill of the future that only a few can do. And this symbol right here, what does that mean to you? So as an example, put it on the chat as you're watching this video, whether you're on live or you're watching the recorded video. This is going to be a great exercise and an example of what you can expect when we come together and start perceiving together. So perceiving the world better, starting with Miami, is what we're going to be doing on Meet the Makers of Miami. And we're no longer being made by the identities of the past. Like whatever we came through, whatever our experiences were, whatever our culture is, we no longer have to be defined by it, because I think we're now entering a phase where we're now making it. We're no longer made, we're making it. And by the way, this shirt is available for sale. Hit me up if you want it. I really think it's a cool idea, and it puts the idea of Meet the Makers of Miami just right. Okay, so once again, this Sunday, July 12th, from noon to 5 p.m., entrepreneurs, creatives, or if you know anybody that can benefit from an event like this, it's absolutely free to attend. It's a networking event and workshop. You can make a new friend. You can learn a few things about yourself and learn a few things about other people. Okay, go to miaminetworking.com/makers to RSVP, and I look forward to seeing you there. Have a great week, everybody. I'll see you next Monday, 10:30 a.m. for another episode of Mornings with Manny.